Welcome to the Charity Matters podcast. Mr. Rogers' mother said, always look for the helpers. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, lifelong helper, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for a decade with my blog, and I'm so excited to finally be sharing these inspiring conversations with our new podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Today, our guests are Richard Garcia and Erica Sular, the co-founders of Alma's Backyard Farm. And I'm excited to share their incredible journey and our inspiring conversation. Hi, Erica.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Hi, Richard. How are you?
Good. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Basically, what I really wanted to share is the story of Alma's Gardens, of how, first of all, what you guys do and how you got started. So for those people that aren't familiar with your work, tell us what you guys do at Alma's Backyard Farms.
Yeah. So, thank you for having us. Richard and I co-founded Alma in 2013. So we're actually just about 7 years old, I guess.
Wow.
And we got our start in backyards, hence our name, Alma Backyard Farms. But I'll let Richard kind of talk more about sort of our startup story and how and really what I guess inspired us to really start Alma.
Yes. So I like how you refer to verbum dei as the verb, and I've heard that used. So Alma means soul, and our work is intended to satisfy the deeper hungers of the soul, that being community, a place to thrive, kinship, connection. That's why we chose Alma, and Alma is also the street where we first started. So now backyard, there's a term called NIMBYism where we have this tendency to say things are they don't pertain to us. It's not in my backyard. The issues that we have worked with predominantly is around food insecurity, food justice, and criminal justice, reentry work, helping folks who have been spent part of their lives incarcerated and are reentering, helping them reenter through training that takes place through urban agriculture. So backyard, it's kind of a play because we believe that the work we do makes these issues that are challenging and difficult sometimes to talk about. We believe in making it palatable.
I love that. I love that.
So that we could acknowledge that it is in our backyard. It is in our backyard that Los Angeles is challenged with high rates of food insecurity, and we're challenged with in South LA particularly, disproportionately more parolees than any other part in the city. So those are issues that are in our backyard, and I think we want to face those issues head on and forward. And then farms. I know there's farms is we use farms because we intend to grow and produce volume. And I think, I know Erica says this often, that technically speaking, when you identify yourself as a farm according to the USDA, you grow at least 1,000 pounds of marketable vegetables. And so
$1,000.
$1,000 worth.
Yeah.
Sorry, $1,000 worth. But we aim to grow in volume so we could feed people, and that explains our name. Alma Backyard Farms, and we go by Alma for short. Oftentimes enough, everyone thinks Erica is Alma.
Which is what I thought. I mean, I thought the same thing. I mean, when I was like, okay, who's Erica? Like, I was thinking there must be someone named Alma, and shouldn't I be talking to Alma?
Yeah, everyone's always looking for Alma. They're like, where is she? Who is she? It's a little deeper than just a person's name.
Well, so I always say you don't wake up and start a nonprofit. I mean, it is such hard work. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to run a business that serves humanity and that relies on the kindness of others. And it is incredibly hard work. So how did you two get to this place? 7 years ago, what happened? Of all the people I've interviewed, almost all of them can tell you the moment the steps, the things that triggered it, that said, we have to do this. So what was that story, and what were those moments for you two that brought you to this?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about our previous work, and then Richard can share the story, that particular story that really captures that moment where we said we have to go deeper into this work. Both Richard and I have worked for several years with people in transition. I met Richard when I was undergrad at LMU. I was actually an incoming freshman, and I was going in as an education major. And Richard was running an after-school program at Dolores Mission in Boyle Heights.
Dolores Mission.
Yeah. So Richard was looking for tutors for the after-school program that he had just gotten off the ground. An after-school program that was really started to give children a safe space in a neighborhood that is, overrun by gang violence and really like a lack of safe spaces for children. So, first question that Richard asked me at that point was, "What's your GPA? What's your GPA, and can you sign up to tutor?" And so, I think I was entering LMU with like a 4.0 coming from St. Matthias in Downey. And anyway, I quickly fell in love with Dolores Mission and Boyle Heights community. So we worked together there as an LMU student myself, really coordinating students to volunteer and spend time in the community. And really, just learn about a different community, and have our hearts be broken, and then have the experience of our hearts being put back together in the very same community. And so I went on to work at Homegirl Cafe, so at Homeboy Industries, shortly after my senior year of college, where Homegirl had just moved from its Boyle Heights location to Chinatown, and had grown dramatically in size and was not prepared with staff. So I joined the Homegirl Cafe team, in 2008 to to really support the team there and help grow the training program and the restaurant so that we could go from, people waiting 4 hours for a taco plate to waiting, a good 15 minutes, to create a space for the women to not only have, solid job training, but a space where they could embrace, being a mother and being a woman, a sober woman, in this new phase of their life. And so Richard ended up, he had worked at Homeboy Industries before and had come back to Homegirl Cafe to work with us and help develop a few different components of the training program, including a gardening aspect. So we started experimenting with the idea of the entire food process of growing, preparing, and serving. And so a lot of the women that we were working with had never grown vegetables or really had much exposure to what growing food is like. And so it was an opportunity for us to build our training components to include a growing aspect, so that women could really have an opportunity outside of the hustle and bustle of like the restaurant world,
right,
to really process a lot of what was happening in their lives and to just explore other opportunities. And so it was during that work at Homegirl Cafe that sort of the fire was ignited in our hearts to really pursue Alma and to want to go into the urban agriculture part of food a bit more. And Richard can share more about a particular story and even his own training and
I think
career path.
Because there's always a moment. There's always that moment. At least everyone that I've talked to has a moment where they just, the pieces come together and spaces. Whether you're being called or whatever you want to label it. But it's when
similar.
You have to act.
It may be the same moment happening at different
because most people wouldn't do this work if there wasn't that moment. So I'd just love to hear what connected those final dots. Obviously, you guys were growing food and Homegirl.
They're moments
and you were
of
obviously
listening.
already working with people coming out of prison.
The moment is one of listening, where the stories emerge.
How did you get from there
or
to
the
where you are?
invitation emerged for us to be waist deep in this, if not deeper in this work. So like, I'm a Loyola High School grad, and I remember I remember my junior year, and Greg Boyle presided over Mass, and I had an interest in priesthood, ordained ministry, and I think as a junior at Loyola, hearing Greg preach was an invitation to consider what God might have in mind. And that moment is an invitation to as Greg puts it, choose to be chosen, to recognize that God loves you without measure and without regret. And I think that moment has revealed itself time and time again, and I think it's more pronounced in certain at certain stages in life. So that was high school, and then I'll just kind of fast track because I don't have to go through every of this. But the moment when we decided that urban farming is a means to nourish the soul, is one way that's revealed this experience of God loving us without regret, was when we were tending a small farm plot at Dolores Mission again. This is post my youth ministry days there. So I was driving down with a homegirl named Sarah. And we had just left one small farm plot at a house to tend this farm plot on 3rd Street and Gless in Boyle Heights, right?
Right.
Composition of place. This is very Ignatian, right? It's where you are, where your feet land.
Right.
So we were driving down the street. We were on Gless. And I noticed Sarah to be visibly shook. And she was quiet, the sort of quiet that you could really hear. And so I turned to her and she was staring out the window. And then she says to me that the last time she was there, they were there to do a drive-by shooting. And so she says this to me, and then when we park, and then we have our seedlings, our tray of seedlings that we're going to plant into the ground, she says to me, the last time I was here, we were going to take away a life, and the time that I'm here now, we're planting life. So it was a revelation that perhaps farming with previously incarcerated and system impacted folks, perhaps this is a way to heal. It stuck with me because it allowed for that road to be traveled where someone could have that deep of a reflection. This was in her. And so we decided.
Wow, I just got chills.
From inductive reasoning, this is another Loyola High type of thing. From inductive reasoning, that from this one experience, perhaps there could be repeated instances of it. And I can attest to the reality that there have been repeated instances of this moment.
My arm is standing up. Well, I would think so in the past 7 years, of course. But so then did you just say, okay, all right, Erica, like we're leaving homegirl. Let's go find some property. Let's go do this. I mean, there's a lot that happens that makes this all come together. How did you end up getting the land? And then talk to me, maybe, Erica, a little bit about some of the challenges you guys have had. Yeah. Because you can't start a business without challenges.
Oh, right. That's like hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah. So there was, that moment with Sarah was close to, so we were at a point at Homegirl Cafe where, we had gotten the restaurant in a place where, it was thriving. And the homegirls were thriving. We had, the space was good to everyone. And there was room for growth. But there was a little bit of resistance, with the growth, as usually happens. And so it just came to be that it was time for us to move on. It was time for us to explore something else and to really dig deeper into exploring, what sort of work we could go into. And so we really started looking at backyards. Like, how could we utilize underutilized space? So take backyards that are not being maximized in Los Angeles, and create these like mini farms to grow food to really nourish people and provide opportunities for folks who are reentering. And so, backyard farming presented its own challenges because, we as an organization needed to secure a lease. And it wasn't very easy to secure leases with, homeowners.
Right.
And so the first backyard that we had installed actually during our homegirl days was on Alma Avenue. That's Richard's house, which we still, it's active today and remains, a backyard farm. And then we explored some backyards and really early on learned that in order for us to increase our impact and scale up, we needed to, look into a different strategy. And so we looked into partnering with reentry homes, looking at, the backyards and reentry homes and the folks who were reentering. And so having a greater impact, we started facilitating programming for folks. We would manage the outside and the reentry housing program would manage the inside. But then around 2015 or so, a friend said, I'm at this parish in Compton at St. Albert the Great, and there's a lot of land. There's a lot of land that isn't being used on this church property. And at this point, we were in South LA, so Compton's just another 15 minutes south. Richard actually knew the former pastor at St. Albert's, and so we came out for a site visit, and I think the land was just, waiting for us. So we, this is actually where we are today. So on the property of St. Albert the Great Church and School, it used to be a softball field that I actually played softball on when I was a kid.
Oh, I love that.
So, just kind of a funny way. So when we look at land, or when we've looked for land, we're looking in places that are food insecure and that you have a high rate of parolees, where the issues that we really address are in these communities. So that the solution, and part of the solution, is really in the very same neighborhood. Program participants. We work with other agencies that are providing other, resources and support. So, we worked with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, ARC, also Homeboy Industries, and oftentimes it's just people in the community who approach us and are just ready for a change. And so we have found that partnering with other agencies has been most beneficial for folks to receive sort of all of the services that are needed at that point in their life. So like we don't provide mental health services, and while the space is therapeutic and there are a lot of healing restorative components to our work, they can receive mental health support from another agency. If they're in need of housing, that's another, support from another agency. And what we provide is the space and agency for them to give back to the community, to help rebuild communities, and also job training, on-the-job training with urban agriculture and the trades that surround urban agriculture with the way that we urban ag, so like carpentry and landscaping, irrigation, and all these other trades, the restaurant and hospitality industry that kind of come along with food and building food systems. So we've been working up to 100 people a year that go through our training program. The pandemic obviously, shifted that. But
so do your parolees,
aside from the training program, we have
how do you end up getting
8 individuals who are on our team as part-time associates who have gone through the training program, are employed full-time by someone else now, and then they're committed to remaining a part of Alma and continuing to improve operations and distribution. Right now, they're at the front lines of our grocery kit giveaways that we're doing during the pandemic, and at the front lines of our build-outs.
Got it. So what would you, how many people do you guys typically have helping you, or how many people are in your program a year? Do you have, does it just depend? Right.
Yeah, I think it's there is that sense of foolishness that you have to believe that something can be, and you're only going to find out if you do it. And to know that, that if we're not well, we can't
say that
can't do anything well for anyone else.
You two are partners,
so I think, like,
there typically
to reiterate, it's like good sleep, a good spiritual life, good prayer,
just making something. We're
eating well. Like, those 3 things, and exercise, 4 things, are like
something that we can't
keep us
at the end
grounded
of the day,
and going.
And I think just to add to what,
oh my gosh, it's coming from me from all ends. Have I raised this amount of money? Have I taken care of this in the program? Am I helping this person? And am I completely being there? Am I doing everything I can do?
Person at heart, like an older person.
And when those buckets are heavy, when we have those days, which I think happen more often than people realize in this work, because we feel the pressure of someone relying on us that we need to care for. What fuels you to keep going?
I have a graduate degree in pastoral theology. But I can't help but
when
say
you just are,
probably
it's
my
just
most
hard.
impactful theological courses
it's hard.
were in high school, where, you're 16 and you're 17, you're 18, and then you hear something like love is a choice that you have to make. And so you ponder that for the rest of your life if you hear it at 14, 15, 16, whatever. And so I think that being said, there is a discipline with love where you have to choose it every day. So it may not always feel wonderful, but there is the edifying, deeper edifying feeling of knowing that the choice to love happened. So it doesn't always. There's a lot of someone once described farming as picking things up and putting things down, and that sometimes feels like the whole day.
Yeah,
you're picking things up, putting things down, you're loading, you're offloading, and then you know, I think I think it's you know, the other day someone picked up kale. Okay, someone picked up kale, and they're preparing this kale, and they're cooking it down with like bacon or something like that, and then they're preparing it for
Right.
a kitchen that serves homeless folks. And then she looked around, and she said to me, "I could see you love what you do." And I thought that was one of the nicest compliments. Like, it was, she kept it real. Okay. She looked around,
Right.
and there is this meticulousness about how we orchestrate the space, because our intention is for people to really be, have a sense of presence in the space. So that is also fuel. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And there's something that fuels us, knowing that. And, you know, it's kind of these, you know, the day sometimes gets peppered with like really nice things, but you got to kind of pay attention to it. So I was just going to say, so in San Pedro, someone walked by, and she's like, "Where did you get your seedlings? Because they look good." And then I told her, you know, we started these from seed. And I said, if you want a bunch, we had collards and cauliflower greens and peppers and eggplants out there. And I said, if you want anything, just come on by. If you're walking, we'll hook you up with a bag,
right,
of veggies, right? And she says, you know, I just want to say God bless you on this day as you rock and roll. And I was like, you know, that little compliment or whatever, well wish that was, I felt it. It fueled me 5 hours in the sun. Like, wow, that was cool. That was a really cool moment.
Because that love goes through everything, right? That love, that your passion is contagious to everybody else that's there. And it continues all the way through to the person who's probably eating the meal of the food that you grew.
Yes, you're right.
Well,
love-hate relationship with the word impact. It's a question that we all have to answer. You know, what's your qualitative, quantitative impact? What's your method of evaluating that? And it's inevitable that people who are generous supporters, who steward their money or steward, you know, a foundation's money, those are answers that or questions that I think will, you know, help challenge and keep people honest in a way. But I've shared this story, and I've not articulated it well enough. But I'll say this. So we provide a space
It fueled you.
For folks reentering to acquire new skills, job and life skills. And so there's a measurable.
I do think that, and I think that when we're in
persons a year,
the nonprofit space, we don't get
for many of them the first
we don't do it for the money.
That they're
it's certainly not for financial reasons that we do this work, and we get paid in different ways, and that the payment are those compliments. The payment is being able to see love in action. The payment is seeing
the very
grace
powerful moment of teaching someone how to pull that
generosity.
trigger of a circular saw.
I mean, we get paid in such different
so
ways,
I'm
right? I mean, we get paid in such different ways in the work that we do that sets us apart from
folks
people that are working in a factory. There's just something very different about what we do with humanity in all of our work. And when we talk about impact, which is a word that I really truly have a love-hate relationship, because all the grants, all the foundations, everyone wants to measure impact. And I always think, like, how do you measure love? How do you measure leadership? How do you measure what you're doing? So
there's a moment when you
guys think about how you measure, I don't know if it's
the trigger
dollars people served or it's something more soulful.
Where
what would you say your impact is?
I've witnessed
there's no grand answer here. It's doesn't have to be a technical answer. But what would you say your impact is at Alma?
That their hands can create good.
Wow.
Their hands can create good, and in pulling that trigger, it's a transformation. Where 100 people may learn how to pull the trigger and cut precisely a piece of lumber, but what's really taking place is the real possibility that 100 people are being trusted, and there's trust restored, and so
it's powerful.
How could you measure that? Like, when they do it, there is the reality where they may not get it on the first try, but I wanted to share this story with you because actually this is the background to why we approach the way we approach with regards to teaching. So when I was coaching basketball at Dolores Mission, I came across a good Jesuit who said to me this. He says to me, you got to get your ego out the way, and it is not about winning. He said every kid has to play and get the chance to play because the real job is to teach them to love the game. Right. And this is, we had done so much work and we well, in terms of the winning, and I know this may be the ego part, we were undefeated that season. First time ever. Like, the kids were winners on the court. And the crazy thing is, it was after having swallowed that advice to forget about winning. So it's in regards to getting somebody to a point where they could commit to a job. What really has to take place first is getting them to commit to loving their lives.
Right.
Because then do your job because you love life. So that's the thing, like,
wow.
That's the thing that if you want to measure impact, yes, it is, and so like, we've been talking about this. So I think somehow, some way, there's the cross fertilization where the issues of food justice and criminal justice they've met.
Right.
And I think like at this point in the evolution of Alma is
I know a lot of them.
I know a lot of them. There's justice when it comes to affordable housing. So oftentimes folks who are re-entering, that's a challenge they face.
Right.
So there's a couple dreams, right? But it has to do with if there's an opportunity to farm a large space and provide housing, that's one of them. But I think the dream is this, like I think it's there's a concept of the agri.
Okay, Richard, I'll give you that.
Where you have housing that's developed around the farm. Yeah, it's comparable to like if you some homes are built around a country club, right?
Right.
This would be a farm, right?
Interesting.
So
I love that.
It tends to be probably more exclusive of an environment because it's not as affordable, right? What we love to do for Los Angeles is if we can, rehab blocks, right? If we could rehab homes where there's somehow a connection across all front yards and all backyards, create agri-hood in the hood.
It's immeasurable. That's immeasurable. What about you, Erica? Do you have a dream that's different, or is it the same dream?
I think it's all connected. It's a dream that we've been, living out already that has, there are many stages or phases to this dream, but it has to do more with food and accessibility and affordability. And so it's our farm stand. We've had a farm stand before the pandemic. We had to pause it because of the pandemic. And then for next year and the years to come, we're working on really reviving and relaunching our farm stands in Compton and San Pedro as a space that really helps communities rebuild post-COVID. And yes, with food, but with a space to allow for community to gather, a safe green space. We often talk about this idea where people say if I need something healthy, I have to drive out of the hood to go get it. And we want to change that so that it's something that you could walk to. You don't even have to drive. You could just walk to your neighborhood farm and have a space where you could have access to high quality produce and foods and coffee and juices and a venue space. And so really taking this neighborhood farm concept and engaging like multiple layers of community in the space.
I love that.
So I know that I don't forget when people mention wine, you mentioned Chardonnay. There is a snippet of the dream
with making wine.
No,
don't tell me that, Richard. I'm going to be parked off down there.
But we've had, with some Jesuit friends here too, we've had a few glasses of good red wine.
Oh, right? The Jesuits do like their cocktails.
Okay.
Usually Scotch, but that's okay. Go ahead.
That's okay. But it's part of equity and availability. And I'm not saying that we're a farm where you'll have your 5-star dining experience, but we've actually had that experience because Rosso Blue Restaurant had a farm to table dinner here with wine pairings, and it would be great. Compton was once known as it was known, as prime agricultural land.
Oh, I never knew that. Right. So, they were probably orange groves, right? Or citrus groves, probably? Or was it farming?
Even like downtown area. Into like the hills by Elysian, and they were vineyards, like behind Union Station and up into the hills were vineyards, and South LA was a lot of cattle, and just a lot of farmland. And actually, Compton still has quite a rich. There's a lot of farming still happening in Compton, where people like have cows and goats and horses in their backyards today.
There's a lot of lessons that happen in this work. And there's a lot of lessons that really inspire a lot of people. And when you think about what life lessons you've learned, and then really how they've changed you, you know, what are those lessons and how have you changed since this started?
I'm just thinking about honesty. I'm thinking about the first word that came to mind when you said life lessons was the importance of honesty, to live a life that is honest. And I think Richard often says this, and I think you say that. I think you say Father Greg Boyle says this, that to live as though the truth is true, and you say Father Greg says that.
The truth as if it was true.
Yeah, and I think there are many life lessons, but I think if you know, we talk about what fuels and what motivates and what gets you going every day, and it's that reminder to choose to be chosen and to choose love. And I guess it's more than a lesson, but I think if the lesson lies in embracing and accepting honesty, and being honest in all of your relationships and as a business, as a nonprofit business, being honest in your transactions, in stewardship with donors and supporters, stewardship with our beneficiaries, and honesty. You're not going to get very far without it. So I think that's at the core of like one of the values and lessons that I've learned. Is instrumental to really being able to live a life not just for myself but for others.
Beautiful. Okay, Richard.
It's one of the lessons that I've learned, we've just, Eric and I have had more a sedentary role the past couple of weeks. Insofar as we've had to write up some grant applications, that sort of thing. It is the case, and I could attest to it that money follows mission. Mission comes first. The money will follow, but I do believe, like what Eric is saying, in terms of honesty, if you work with a heart full of honesty towards the fulfillment of your mission, it will follow. And I say this, I know it's like, I could hear the critique about faith-based funding. Well, essentially, as believers, we believe that God will provide, and that's not just in our own history of existence, but it's in our ancestral history. And so, like, even now with the COVID-19 crisis, I think knowing that the faith of our mothers and fathers, those have gone before us, just knowing that they've experienced redemption and God's come through. I'm not saying don't worry and just go about your day without wearing a mask. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we have to be vigilant, not just of social distancing, but really of the emergence of God. And I think, there's a life lesson. It's that God works through the challenges, not apart from it, not a distance from it, but through them. And so, like, I'm anticipating that there are challenges ahead. And I think growing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable has been one of my lessons that I've learned to appreciate. So that's
a good one, because I think the whole world is growing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think we're all going through that right now, don't you think? I mean, every person on this planet in some way has had their life shifted from this. Every single human in some way has been impacted by this. And I think that's exactly we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think that's exactly, I was trying to think of my life lesson for 2020 or my word for 2020. And, all the people keep saying, oh, pivot, we've pivoted, and all these trendy words people are using. And I was thinking, but it speaks exactly to what you're saying. My word really was patience. My word that I've decided, the word of 2020 for me is patience, and learning that I have to be comfortable with the questions, which is what makes me uncomfortable, right? I'm uncomfortable with, why am I not going to church? Why are my children not going to school? Why am I not seeing my family at the holidays? I'm uncomfortable with all of that, but that's the question. And so for me, I have to be comfortable with those questions, and being comfortable with those questions means being patient. And so that's kind of what I've it's just that we're thinking the same thing and we're saying in a different way, but you're speaking to me, Richard. You're speaking to me, because it's exactly what I literally wrote about this the other day. I was writing about patience. That's really my takeaway from this year. And I love the growing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because I think that is beautifully said. That's exactly it. Well, there's so much. We've all just had so much that we've had to learn with this year. And I think nonprofits especially, it's always so hard. The work we do is hard regardless. And then COVID has made us all, and so many nonprofits haven't survived. Some have thrived, some have not. The nonprofit that I run, the Catholic Youth Leadership Organization that I run, we pivoted. We use that word, and we thrived, but it was hard. It was really, really hard, but we've done it. So I have to thank you guys so much for all your time, but I want to know, where can we support you? How can we get involved? Tell us where to find you on social media, on your website, on every last thing. Huge shout out for Alma.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us to share with you. Thank you for listening. You can find us. We have a website, almabackyardfarms.com, and we are on Instagram at Alma Backyard Farms. We're always in need of prayers. We're always in need of prayers. And like all nonprofits, we rely heavily on the generosity of our supporters, who we are extremely grateful for. And so if you are excited about food justice and restorative justice and criminal justice, then we invite you to reach out to us. And we're not because of COVID, we don't have too many visits going on now, but we invite you to get involved in one way or another with our work, whether that be physically distanced or financial. We're just excited to be where we are, excited to dream for the years ahead, and are just grateful that we have the opportunity to be able to do the work that we do, and to be able to continue to be outdoors and have our hands in the dirt is exciting for us. So we hope that you get to visit one day.
Oh, I can't wait to visit. Two things. One, I can't wait to come to this community garden and have a fabulous glass of Chardonnay and dinner in your beautiful garden with the community and the vegetables and the coffee place and everything. I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. I can see myself there, the twinkle lights. I can hear the music. I already have it. And I can't wait to go, maybe to Nickerson Gardens one day to, the new neighborhood. What's it? How do you say this word? The word for the agrihood. Agrihood. Yeah. That, because boy, I just think about communities across the country, and good things always set trends and good things happen. And I just think that so many communities, and not just in Southern California, need what you're doing. And I just think that you guys are really building a beautiful model for so many people to follow and organizations to follow. There's so many beautiful ways that you're changing humanity and you're changing the environment and you're changing community and you're feeding people in physical ways and in spiritual and mental ways. And I think that there's nothing more beautiful than that. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And I'm just excited to share and hopefully inspire people to support you and get involved and just even open their minds. So many people just don't realize all the good work that's happening in their communities. And there's just so much negativity in this world. And if we can just shine a little light on the goodness that's happening, I think it just makes our world a better place. And that's my personal mission, is to just make sure the light is being shined on the right people and the right work, and so that we're focusing on what's important, which is taking care of each other. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to Richard and Erica about what it takes to start a business that changes people's lives. I think Erica's comment about living a life that is honest and to live as though the truth were true was so inspiring and true. To learn more about these modern day heroes and entrepreneurs, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we'd love it if you shared this with your friends and family, because together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time.